All right, so it is late, in fact, too late, but I'm going to go ahead and go over this review, and hopefully you're not still awake. But if you are, you can go ahead and follow along with me, and if not, hopefully you're actually catching this in the morning as you're getting ready for that fun math activity, otherwise known as a test. But I really like to call it a fun math activity because, in fact, I love math and I love doing them. So here was the first page, and I'm actually going to kind of jump around a little bit because the first page is a quick review of stuff that most of you already know. Oh, I got somebody who logged on. Hey, I hope I don't keep you up late. So I'm going to jump around and I'm going to come back to this for those people who need this, but I want to make sure that we really understand the patterning because I was out for those days. Hey, Chloe. So in class, we did number 9 and we did number 10. And so now I'm going to move on and I'm just going to go over 11. And we did go over 11 in class, but we went over it really quick. So for those people who are trying to study and prepare themselves for that fun math activity sheet, otherwise known as a test, this will give you a little bit of assistance. So number 11 says Jack and Jill are creating patterns. His rule is multiply by 2, add 1. He starts at 2. Jill's rule is multiply by 2, it says subtract and add, and we said in class that, whoops, Miss Foreman made an error. Just get rid of the word add. Subtract 1, she starts at 3. Which coordinate grid represents the pattern created by Jack as compared to Jill? And so we said when we're creating a pattern, we can use a pattern table or an input-output table, some people call it. So we're going to use that, and given the amount of space that I have, I'm going to just go across here, and I'm going to make a horizontal table. But again, it doesn't really matter if it's horizontal or vertical, as long as your coordinates end up lining up. So I've got Jack, and I'm going to call him JA, and I got Jill, and that's going to be JI, and that just saves me time. So when I'm going through here, I see that there's some numbers. I've got a 2 and a 1, a 2 and a 1. Oh, a 2 here and a 3 here. And my question is asking me which coordinate grid represents the patterns that are created. So now I'm going to look for some operation words. I've got multiply and add, and then I've got multiply and subtract. So even though the numbers that were used are the same, the patterns are going to be different because I'm performing different operations. So I'm going to start out by looking at Jack's, and I know that Jack is going to start at 2. I'm going to draw a line after it so I make sure they're lining up. And what I notice with Jack is he's starting at 2, and his rule is multiply by 2, add 1. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure that I don't get confused, is I'm going to write times 2 plus 1 over here, so that just when I'm doing this, I remember the rule that I'm applying. So I have 2 times 2 is 4, and then the plus the 1 is 5. Perfect. So now I'm going to take this number and again apply it to the next pattern. So 5 times 2 is 10, but plus 1 is 11. So I have my first 3 points, and if you notice and you're looking at your answer choices, it's only got 3 graphed, so I do already have the first 3 for Jack. But again, if I wanted to continue, it would be 11 times 2 is 22, plus the 1 would give you 23. So I am going to stop there because, again, I only need 3 points. Now, Jill starts at what number? Let's see, Jill's rule is multiply by 2, subtract 3. Oh, Jill starts at 3. So I'm going to plug that in, and already here is going to be a coordinate pair. So I'm going to take and look at what was Jill's rule. Multiply by 2, subtract 1. So I'm going to take over here, and I'm going to kind of cross this out so it doesn't confuse me. Times 2 minus 1. So a little different because it, again, indicates different operation. So 3 times 2 is 6, minus 1 is 5. And now 5 times 2 is 10, minus 1 is 9. And so I could go ahead, 9 times 2 is 18, minus 1 is 17. And what you're going to see is that these numbers that correspond are going to be used to form an ordered pair we're comparing. It says they're comparing Jack to Jill, so when I'm comparing, these two are the two that I'm lining up to compare. So now I actually have ordered pairs that I can use to on a coordinate grid. So my first ordered pair is going to be, we kind of talked about this in class, 2, 3, well, we really talked about in class, because obviously you have a test tomorrow, or a fun math activity sheet that some people like to call a test, but I really just like to call it a fun math activity sheet, because who doesn't love math? All right, so my first one is 2, 3. So I'm going to look at my first one. Is my first one on 2, 3? So in fact, you're going to notice here that there was an extra dot there on my origin. So the first one does not work because I've got 0, 0, and that is not in my pattern. But just in the interest, 5, 5. 5, 5 is, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. 5, 5 is here. So if you marked A, you would do the distractor because you plotted 0, 0, and 0, 0 is in fact not one of our points on our pattern. So let's look at our next one. Again, I'm looking for 2, 3, 5, 5, 11, 9. So is this 2, 3? Yes, so far it works. Is this 5, 5? Yes, so that works. And then the last number in my pattern is 11, 9. So is this 11, 9? And notice that I was running across before I jumped up. And so this one does work. All 3 points work, but as mathematicians, we always want to persevere in solving. So I'm just going to check these as well to make sure I didn't make an error. So C, again, I'm looking for 2, 3. Is this 2, 3? No, because if I went across 2 and up 3, my point should have been here. So this does not work. This is actually backwards. If you were to have plotted your X and Y coordinate the other way, that's the one that would have worked. And D is not going to work because, again, you have 0, 0. You have the origin marked, and we don't have anything there. So we did 12 together. So I'm going to move on to 13 and go through it. So, oh, and I asked you in class to change this number to 25. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, but it's cool. Sarah and Michelle are creating patterns. Sarah starts at 2, and in the interest of time, I'm just going to go through new cubes, and you can do the same. Sarah starts at 2. Her rule is add 5, then subtract 2. Michelle starts at 10. Her rule is to multiply by 2, subtract 5. So again, they have their own rules and they started their own numbers. So I'm going to make, again, a table to help me with this pattern. So this time I'm going to do a vertical one because that's how I have the space, and again, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to label one as Sarah and one as Michelle. So I'm just going to look at Sarah first. Sarah starts at 2, and Sarah's rule is add 5, subtract 2. So if you made this connection already, you would recognize when I'm adding 5 and I'm subtracting 2, I'm really just adding 3 to this number. So it'd be like 2 plus 3, your next number would be 5. But I just want you to see that if you didn't realize that, it still comes out the same. 2 plus 5 would have been 7, and then minus 2 is what gives you that 5. So if you can make that connection and just add 3, you're good. Otherwise, it works the same. Again, 5 plus 3 would be 8. But if you wanted to use that rule, 5 plus 5 would be 10, minus 2 is 8. And now I've got 8 plus 5 is 13, minus 2 is 11. That's the biggest numbers that come up for Sarah, so I can stop there. And now I'm going to take that same information and I'm going to generate Michelle's pattern. So Michelle starts at 10. And again, I'm going to write her rule above so I don't forget. Her rule is multiply by 2. Cross it out so I don't know. Times 2, and then subtract 5. Okay, so again, I'm going to do one step at a time and then do the next step. So 10 times 2 would be 20, but minus 5 is 15. So now I'm going to take that and I'm going to do 15 times 2 is 30, minus 5 is 25. And then my last one is going to get pretty high, and it's beyond my numbers, but just in the interest, 5 times 2 would be 50, but minus 5 would be 45. So again, we now have these ordered pairs, or these coordinate pairs that I can use, and I'm going to see, do these answers work? Do I have a 1030? No, I don't have a 1030. This number, I got an 8 and I got 11, but I don't have anything with 10. So 8 is not going to work. Do I have a 720? No, I don't have a 720, and in fact, that's a distractor. If you would have applied only the first rule to the pattern, that would have worked. Now, this one, when we did it in class, we realized that my select all only had one correct, and I'm in error there. So Sarah is supposed to be 825. And so C, it does end up working with our correction. And then, let's see, do I have a 515? Right, you can see I have a 515 here. So D works as well. And then do I have a 520? No, I do not have a 520. So again, I'm going through, I'm writing the rule above it, and I'm going through one person's pattern at a time before looking at the next person's pattern. Hey girl, I'm so glad you logged on. I'm sure you're going to do really well on tomorrow's, oh, I see there's now 3 people on. I'm sure you're going to do well on tomorrow's fun math activity sheet, otherwise known as a test, because who doesn't love math? So we're going to go now and we're going to look at the last sheet. And then we'll pop back to the very beginning in case anybody needs any kind of reviews on that. So in class, we went over number 14. We were able to generate that pattern. And now we're going to move on to number 15 about Batman and Robin. Clearly, I don't know how to spell Batman. It's not my thing. But anyways, so Batman and Robin are creating patterns. Batman's rule is to subtract 8. He starts at 40. Robin's rule is to multiply by 2. You think that's funny, don't you? It is funny because, you know, it's really not my thing. I don't do superheroes, and I don't do none of that Star Wars, Star Trek stuff. I'm like such a realist. It's too hard for me. I just can't. We're all different. So I like a lot of nonfiction. So anyways, that's just me. So anyways, the question actually says, what is the first number in Batman's pattern that also appears in Robin's pattern? And so one of the things that we talked about today in class when we were doing the other one, yeah, math is my thing, Erica. One of the things that we talked about, see, it's the best. That's why tomorrow's going to be a fun math activity sheet that some people call a test, but it's really just a fun math activity sheet. Anywho, so it's asking me the first number in Batman's pattern. So when I'm comparing in class, we talked about we're going to look at Batman's pattern and compare it against it. So anywho, we're going to make another lovely pattern table, and I'm going to label Batman and Robin. You are so right. This is so easy, especially when we're just like chilling or we're having fun, we're enjoying doing our math. I mean, honestly, my kids tell me all the time that the math block is like the best block of the day. It goes by so fast. That's what I hear. I'm just saying. All right, so anywho, I'm going to look at Batman's rule, which is start at 40, and the rule is to subtract 8. So 40 minus 8. 40 minus 8 is 32. But again, if you could not do that in your head, you could do 40 minus 8 and then realize I can't do 0 minus 8, so I'm going to borrow. This becomes 10 minus 8 is 2, and then drop down my 3. Good job. Oh, you're so awesome. I wish you were in my class. I absolutely love you. I love it that you come on too, by the way. I had a great conversation with you today. Just saying. All right, and so now I'm going to take the 32 and minus 8. Again, if you can't do it, go over to the side. I already have the 32 there, so minus 8. I can't do 2 minus 8, and since I can't, I can borrow. This becomes a 2, and now I have 12 minus 8 is 4, and drop down my 2, so 32 minus 8 is 24. And let's see, 24 minus 8. Oh, good job. See, you're like so all over. I love you because you're responding, which is super awesome. Just makes me excited, especially because I love math. Anyways, you know, tomorrow I have like an interview for Teacher of the Year, and I am so going to talk about you guys. I'm going to be like, they come on and they do YouTube with me, and they're awesome. Totally what I'm going to say. So 4 minus 8, I obviously can't do, so I'm going to borrow from my 2, and it becomes a 1. And so now 14 minus 8, and then drop down your 1. So you should hopefully get an answer. When I took the 24 and I subtracted the 8, I should have got 16. And then again, I can do 16 minus 8 is 8. Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I would love to have you in my class, but I'm telling you, I would love to have. You're eating such a late dinner, Chloe. Oh my gosh! But I just ate a midnight snack. Don't tell anybody. I ate like an entire pack of crackers. It was delicious. I love Ritz, so they were Ritz crackers. Terrible for you, but so delicious. Anyways, so now I'm going to look at Robin's pattern, and it says that Robin starts at 2, and the rule is multiply by 2. So pretty easy. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32, and so on and so forth. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at, it tells me to look at Batman's pattern. So I need to look at Batman's pattern and compare against Robin's. Yeah, girl, I'm at home. It's so late. You cannot be at school. I stay at school today until 6, but it happens. But I'm at home now. And in fact, everybody in my house is sleeping except for me. They like to go to bed early. See, I'm so like full of energy though, because I'm like a night owl, but I'm also an early bird, except for like, don't talk to me for like the first, I don't know, 30 minutes. But anyway, so I'm going to look at Batman's pattern, and whatever do I have in Batman's, I'm going to compare against Robin. So I have a 40 in Batman's. Does Robin have a 40? No, because if I were to extend this more and go further to see if there's going to be a 40, 32 times 2 is actually going to give you 64, so it would be too high. So I don't have a 40. I have a 32. Do I have a 32? Right, you will see that there's a 32 and there's a 32. So 32 is the first number in Batman's pattern that is also in Robin's pattern. So, whoops, 32 isn't even an answer choice. I am like so terrible about that. Okay, so just change that to 32. It happens. Yup. All right. Again, we did this one in class together. We did the 16 and we talked about the relationship. We talked about that when you determine a rule, you need to check it with all your patterns to make sure that you've determined the right rule, because I could say that 1 plus 2 is 3, but 2 plus 3 is not 6. Erica, you didn't what? 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. Oh, you didn't do it in class. Duh. That's right, because you don't have me. See all the fun you're missing out on? We did this really fun, awesome activity sheet. But I know that your teacher had made one as well. It's probably super awesome too. So when I did this, we wanted to figure out, and we talked about this in class for those who are in my class. But you know what? I actually am going to brag on the people who are not in my class who joined the live feed, because that's pretty cool. So anywho, we figured out in class I could look at my basic fact, 3 times what is 6? And we said that 3 times 2 is 6, so just add on my 0. 3 times 20 is 60. But I can't assume that's correct. I have to check it against my other patterns to make sure it works. Is 6 times 20 120? So 6 times 2 is 12, and then we add our 0, so it does work. Again, continue it on. Is 2 times 9 18, and then I add on a 0, boom. So now I need to find that missing number. I need to apply the same rule to find a missing number. So I'm going to be multiplying by 20, but just as we did with all these, I can look at the basic fact, 18 times 2, and then just add on my 0. So I'm going to go ahead and add on the 0 now so I don't forget, because it happens. And now I'm going to multiply my 18 times 2. So 2 times 8 is 16. So I mark my 6 and revert my 1. And then 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 more is 3. So we found out, and again, those of you who are in this class, we found out that it's 360. So we were able to eliminate 2 of our answer choices right away. We realized that this one's not going to work, and this one's not going to work. So I'm basically left with 2 answers, and I can only choose one of them. So when I was looking at this, and we did do cubes in class, so I'm like cutting shortcuts right now, but you already did this, most of you. So when it says what is the relationship between the 2 sequences, I know both of these are 360, but I need to figure out the relationship between them. So that's where it comes to that second part of your answer choices. So this rule says add 60 to the amount earned, and this one says multiply 20. And so when we look at the rule that we applied, we decided the rule was to multiply by 20, and we did that in class, and D worked. So I'm going to just kind of quickly go through this because I know it's getting late. The video is kind of long already. It's in fact already at 20 minutes. So those of you who are hanging on for all this time, you're awesome. So this is asking me again, what is the missing number? And I know, but they're going to go back and rewatch it. I just know they're going to go back and rewatch it. Probably not. But anyways, I'm going to pretend. It wants me to find the relationship. So I just need to figure out what is the relationship between these two numbers in reality. So what did I do to go from 2 to 24? Good. I multiplied by 12. And 4 to 48. Does 12 work? Yes, it does. And is 6 times 12, 72. So I know that rule works. And this is actually pretty easy. 10 times 12. Hopefully you recognize really quickly that that is 120 because 1 times 12 is 12 plus or 0. Yeah. So that helps me to eliminate, in fact, all of them. None of these work. But I do want to make sure, in the interest that you had two that said 120, you just want to make sure your rule works. This rule says to multiply 12 by the number of cups. So number of cups multiplied by 2 to find the number of pancakes baked. And that's exactly what we did do. So C works. Okay, now I'm going to zoom through. Those of you, we did not do this at all in class together unless you were working in small group. So I'm going to zoom through this just because it's easy, but I only asked you to do pieces of it as homework. Okay, so I asked you to do letter A for number 1. It says which point is located at 5, 2. And we talked about if I'm doing a long jump, I want to run across really, really fast before I jump up so that I can get a good jump. So across and then up. This is going to be your X, and this is going to be your Y. So I want to go across 5 units and then up 2 units. What letter do we see there? Good, we see the letter C there. And I mean, I could do the same thing, and I'm going to do it just because it's quick. 6, up 5, so 6, 5, I've got D. Boom, super easy. All right, so this one is going to be the reverse. It's going to give me a coordinate grid that I need to locate and label these points. So I'm going to locate and label M. Again, I'm going to run before I jump. So run across 4 units, jump up 7 units, and that's where point M is going to go. Point N, I'm going to do run across 7 units and jump up 3 units and label it point N. And then point P is 0, 7. And this is where people get all the time. They're going to end up wanting to stay at the 0 and go across 7. But in fact, I'm going to go across 0 and up 7. So go across 0, up 7. That's where it's going to be. So that's like a little bit of a distractor that people tend to get often. Boom. So then number 3 is fairly quick, but you just need to make sure that you're paying attention to the keywords. So it says point E is located 3 units away from the origin in the direction of the y-axis, which means my y coordinate, if I'm looking at an x and y, I totally wish. If I was looking at x and y, this is telling me that 3 is in my y coordinate and 4 is in my x coordinate. But if I needed to plot that to visually see it, I could realize that I'm going to go up 3 and over 4, because that's what it just told me. And there's E, and so E is located at 4, 3. Notice that the numbers are backwards. They're not in the same order. This is not going to be my first number because this is my y coordinate, and I know x goes before y. So I'm going to label this as 4, 3. No, yes, 4, 3. 4 is my x, 3 is my y. Same thing here. I'm going to look at my letter F, and it says that letter F, 5 is in my x, and 3 is in my y. So in this instance, it did give you your x first and then your y, which is great. So 5 goes in your x and 3 goes in your y. And again, you should hopefully remember that X is going to go before Y because alphabetically X comes before Y in the alphabet. So kind of easy way to remember. And then G, it says Y is going to be 0 and 4 will be my X. So I'm going to plot my X at 4 and my Y as 0. Boom. 5 is we got some, 4 we got some select alls, so hopefully we can just go through this quickly. It says point H is located 5 units away from the origin in the direction of the y-axis. Which of the following can be the coordinates of H? So we don't know anything about the X, so all I really need to pay attention to is the Y. So again, alphabetically, X comes first and then Y. So when I'm talking about the y-axis, I need to have the value of 5 in the Y position, meaning my second number. So does A work? No, it does not work because the 5 is in my X and I need the 5 to be in my Y. Does B work? Right, I know that B is going to work because B is my Y position. Does C work? Good, C does work because I have an 8 in my X, but I have a 5 in my Y. Does D work? Does E work? Does F work? One of those 3 did work, but I'm not going to tell you which one because you need to do a little bit of legwork. Okay, J, again, this is telling me 4 units away in the y-axis. So I want to, again, X, Y. I need that 4 to be in my second number. So I could just underline my second number, so that's all I'm looking at, and just boom, which one's got 4 in it? So hopefully you recognize that A does not work, B does not work, C does, D does not, E does, F does not. So anyways, a little bit of vocabulary because you're going to see vocabulary. We have to know vocabulary. You're in 5th grade. I mean, it's a big part of everything. So what is the name for the point where the X and Y axis intersect? So this is my X and this is Y. Oh, and there's a name for that point. What do we call the name for that point? Good. The name for that point is the origin. So pretty simple, but again, we always have to know our vocabulary. And again, I talked about in class how in 6th grade this is going to build because you're going to need to, you're actually going to graph in 4 different spots. So you're going to actually end up working with negative numbers. And anyways, so we're only working in quadrant 1, but this will be 2, 3, and 4 as you get into 6th grade. So everything builds. Look at 7. Coordinate grids are used in real life. What is a coordinate grid used for? We talked about this quite a bit. It's used to locate locations, whatever. And last one for the night. Number 8, point Q is located at 9, 6. Point L is located 5 units below point K. What is the coordinates of point L? So I actually made this pretty abstract. I know that 9 and 6 is the coordinates that we're looking at. And we know that this is how much I'm going to go across. And this is how much I had jumped up. And now it's telling me that point L is 5 units below. So if I'm looking at below, am I looking at my X or my Y axis? If I'm looking at below, hopefully you notice that I'm looking at my Y axis. And so I just need to go 5 units below the 6. So that 6 would become a 1. So your new coordinates, the 9 is going to stay the same. They didn't say anything about moving left or right. So your 9 is going to stay the same. And it's going to change to 9, 1. So that's all for tonight, guys. Again, I hope you study. I hope you do your best. And if I don't see you tomorrow, have a great weekend.